All right, get ready to dive deep today. We're tackling the link between blood type and personality.
Oh,
You
fascinating.
bet. And you've given me some awesome sources to work with here.
Yeah.
Yeah, snippets from a Chinese conversation about blood type culture in Japan, research, personal stories. We've
Interesting.
even got some global blood type distribution data to play with. Expert speaker. I'm already hooked just looking this over.
It's quite the mix, isn't it? A blend of personal perspectives and cultural observations and even a touch of science. Should make for an interesting deep dive.
For sure. So today we're going to explore how blood type is viewed in Japan, unpack the science, and see if those global patterns tell us anything interesting.
Sounds good.
So where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, one story that stood out was about a Japanese company using blood types for team building.
Wait, really? They'd separate people based on blood type?
Apparently, it's pretty common there. New employees get grouped by blood type on their first day of training.
Huh. And what happened?
Well, the results pretty much followed the typical blood type stereotypes you see in Japan.
Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of stereotypes are we talking about here?
All right, so imagine you're in this training group and you meet someone who's a B type. According to this Japanese belief, they're likely to be the outspoken, assertive ones, always ready with an opinion.
Interesting. Who are the quiet ones then? The ones in the corner taking it all in.
Those would be your A types, more reserved, thoughtful, and maybe a bit more cautious.
And I bet the O types are the life of the party, keeping the energy up, right?
You got it. They're seen as energetic, optimistic, natural leaders.
Okay, makes sense. But where do AB types fit in? They're always the rarest, right?
They are. The source mentioned they were less common in these training groups too, just like they're less common in the general population.
It's wild how ingrained these stereotypes are in Japanese culture. Almost like blood type is a shortcut to understanding someone's personality.
I know, right?
But where did this whole belief system even come from? Did blood types always have this kind of significance?
That's a great question. To answer that, we need to go back in time a bit and look at the evolutionary history of blood types themselves.
Ooh, a history lesson. I'm ready.
Okay, so get this. The idea that O is the oldest blood type. Totally wrong.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The oldest is actually A, followed by O, then B, with AB being the newest.
Wow, I had no idea. I always thought O was the original and everything else came from that.
It's a common misconception, probably because O negative is the universal donor, so people assume it must be the, purest form.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But if that's not true, how does this evolutionary order tie into personality?
Well, think about it. As humans evolved and moved across different environments, their blood types likely adapted, right? Offered survival advantages.
Right.
Maybe those adaptations shaped not just physical traits, but also behavioral tendencies.
So you're saying our ancestors' blood types could have played a role in the personalities we see today?
It's a possibility. But before we go too far down that road, let's add another piece to this puzzle. The global distribution of blood types. The data you gave me is really fascinating.
Yeah, I was surprised by some of those stats, like the fact that South America has so much O-type blood, especially among indigenous people.
Right. And then you have Europe with lots of A-type, particularly in places like Switzerland and Scandinavia. And don't forget Asia, where B-type is more common, especially in India.
Yeah, yeah. And are AB types still the rarest worldwide?
They are, but there are some exceptions. One ethnic group in Hokkaido, Japan, actually has a high percentage of AB type, around 20%.
Wow, that's way above average.
Yeah.
So what does all this variation in blood type distribution tell us? Does it support those personality theories?
Well, it definitely raises some questions. Could these cultural beliefs about blood type and personality be influenced by the dominant blood type in a specific region? Like maybe in Asia, with a more diverse mix of blood types, personality differences are more obvious, leading to stronger belief.
That's interesting. Like if everyone around you has the same blood type, you might not even think to connect it to personality.
Exactly. It shows how our perceptions are shaped by what we see around us.
This ties in with that Japanese research linking blood type to immunity and then personality. I'm curious about that connection.
Yeah, me too. What did you find interesting about that research?
Well, how each blood type was linked to a certain level of immunity, which then supposedly affected personality development, like a chain reaction starting with biology.
Right. The research suggests that O types with the strongest immunity might be more open, positive, and willing to take risks.
Which makes sense, right? If you're not as likely to get sick, you might feel more adventurous.
Exactly. And then on the other side, you have AB types who apparently have the weakest immunity. They're often described as more sensitive, cautious, maybe more introspective.
Almost like they've evolved to be more aware of threats.
Yeah.
physically and emotionally.
Interesting take. Then there are A types who fall somewhere in the middle, weaker immunity than O types, but stronger than AB types. They're often associated with being organized, planners, liking structure.
So maybe their weaker immunity led them to develop ways to minimize risks and keep things orderly.
Could be. It's fascinating to think how our biology might shape our behavior in such subtle ways.
It's like a secret code inside us, influencing our tendencies and predispositions. I'm hooked. What else did those sources say about blood type and personality?
Well, do you remember that story about the world's wealthiest people list? The one that highlighted the number of O-type and B-type individuals among the super rich?
Oh, yeah. Is there something about those blood types that makes them more successful?
It's a curious correlation. If you think about the personality traits associated with those types, it's not hard to see how they might help. O types with their leadership qualities, B types with their entrepreneurial spirit.
Hold on, does that mean other blood types are less likely to succeed? Are A types doomed to struggle?
Not at all. Remember, these are just potential tendencies, not guarantees. Success depends on so many things: hard work, opportunity, talent, luck. It's about recognizing the strengths of each blood type, not falling into stereotypes.
Right, blood type might be part of it, but not the whole picture.
Yeah.
So what about the other blood types? What are their paths to success?
Well, A types, with their detail-oriented nature, might excel in fields that need precision, like science, engineering, surgery, where accuracy is key.
What about those rare AB types then?
The AB types. They see multiple perspectives, think outside the box. They could be incredible innovators, problem solvers. Imagine them as diplomats, artists, entrepreneurs, bridging different worlds.
Like each blood type has its own strengths working together.
Exactly. Diversity is key, not just in blood types, but in life. But speaking of diversity, there was one story that got me thinking. The one about your source's father and his research on blood types, and let's say a less positive side of human behavior.
You mean his research on blood types in prisons? The one that made him think most murderers were B type.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one definitely got my attention.
It's a bold claim, and while it's led to some jokes, it's important to be skeptical.
Especially when it comes to something as serious as criminal behavior.
Absolutely. To say an entire blood type is prone to violence is not just scientifically questionable, but also potentially dangerous. It can lead to harmful stereotypes.
It's a slippery slope from harmless curiosity to actual discrimination.
Precisely. We need to remember human behavior is complex. It's shaped by genetics, environment, upbringing, social factors, personal choices. To reduce it to blood type is a huge oversimplification.
So how do we balance this interest in blood type and personality with, scientific accuracy and basic human decency?
That's the question. I think the key is a balanced perspective. We can appreciate the cultural beliefs, explore the stories, be open to more research, but always stay critical and avoid harmful generalizations.
Like walking a tightrope, balancing curiosity and responsibility.
Exactly. We explore these connections without getting trapped in deterministic thinking or stereotypes. It's about understanding that human behavior is complex, and blood type, while interesting, is just one small piece of a much bigger picture.
Well said. It's like we've opened a box of intriguing connections, and now we're trying to make sense of it all without causing any chaos.
That's a great way to put it, but I think we're doing all right so far.
I think so too. We've already taken our listeners on quite a ride, exploring the cultural beliefs, the science, and the ethical stuff surrounding this fascinating topic.
Thinking about all these connections between blood type and personality
Yeah.
makes me think about temperament.
Temperament, right. Those inherent behavioral patterns we're born with. Like some babies are super chill from day one and others are,
A bit more spirited.
yeah, exactly. Temperament is kind of like the foundation of our personality, right? Those early ways we react to the world.
Right.
And I'm wondering, could blood type actually play a role in shaping those initial temperamental differences?
It's an interesting thought, isn't it? Adds another layer to the whole nature versus nurture debate.
Yeah, could our blood type be part of that nature side of things?
Exactly.
Imagine if we could pinpoint temperamental patterns linked to different blood types. Could change how we approach parenting, education, maybe even healthcare.
It would be huge, wouldn't it? Give us a whole new understanding of those individual differences we see from the very beginning.
Totally.
But shifting gears a bit, we've talked a lot about Japan, but are there other cultures that put a big emphasis on blood type and personality?
That's a good question. I feel like it's mostly an East Asian thing, right?
Yeah, you're right. Japan is definitely the most well-known example. You see it in South Korea and Taiwan too. but it doesn't seem as deeply ingrained in everyday life like it is in Japan.
I wonder why that is.
Mm.
Could it be because those cultures tend to be more collectivistic?
Yeah.
Where social harmony and the group are really important?
That's a good point. In those cultures, understanding personality types, even if it's through something like blood type, might help people get along better, like a social cheat sheet.
But is it really about harmony? Or could it be used to, like, put people in boxes, limit their potential?
That's a valid concern. We have to be careful about the line between understanding and stereotyping. Cultural beliefs shouldn't be used to limit anyone.
Right. We can appreciate these beliefs without taking them as absolute truth. Speaking of potential downsides, the source mentioned blood type compatibility in romantic relationships, which, honestly, sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, a bit tricky, isn't it? But it seems like in Japan, blood type compatibility is a thing. It's a factor when choosing partners, kind of like astrology in the West.
So, which blood types are supposed to be the perfect match, and which ones should steer clear?
Well, there are a ton of charts and theories out there, but remember, these are mostly based on beliefs, not scientific proof.
Yeah, but come on. You got to give us some examples.
All right. So one common belief is that O-types, being outgoing and energetic, are most compatible with other O-types or AB types. Makes sense, right? Birds of a feather and all that.
Sure, I guess. What about A types then? Those organized, thoughtful types.
Right. They're often seen as compatible with other A types or AB types. It's about finding that shared understanding.
And those independent B types.
They're thought to match well with AB types who appreciate their individuality, or other B types who share that love of adventure and spontaneity.
So basically, AB types are the universal matchmakers, compatible with everyone.
Well, they're often seen as a blend of all the other blood types, like the diplomats of the blood type world. They can connect with different personalities.
The Switzerland of the blood type personality system. Neutral, adaptable.
Huh. I like that. But let's be real. Compatibility in real life depends on so much more than just blood type. Shared values, interests, how you communicate, that genuine spark.
Right, you can't build a relationship on a blood type chart alone.
Definitely not. But it's still fascinating how these blood type beliefs show up in different parts of life, from work to love. Shows how much we want to understand ourselves and each other.
Yeah, totally.
But sometimes in that search for understanding, we run into some questionable claims, like that whole B-type murderer thing we talked about earlier.
Yeah. People joke about it, but we got to be careful with stuff like that, right?
We do, especially when it comes to criminal behavior. We can't be flippant. Saying an entire blood type is prone to violence is not just scientifically shaky, but it's potentially dangerous too. Leads to harmful stereotypes and prejudice.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope from curiosity to discrimination.
Exactly. We have to remember, human behavior is super complex. It's a mix of genetics, environment, how you were raised, social factors, personal choices. To boil it all down to blood type is a massive oversimplification.
So how do we balance this fascination with blood type and personality with good science and just basic human decency?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think the key is balance. We can acknowledge the cultural beliefs, explore the anecdotes, be open to more research, but always think critically and avoid harmful generalizations.
Like walking a tightrope.
Yeah, exactly.
Curiosity on one side, responsibility on the other.
Right. We explore these connections without falling into deterministic thinking or stereotypes. It's about understanding that human behavior is complex, and blood type, while interesting, is just a small part of a much bigger picture.
Well said. It's like we've opened Pandora's box, found all these intriguing connections, and now we're trying to make sense of it without unleashing chaos.
That's a great way to put it, and I think we're doing a pretty good job so far.
I think so too. We've taken our listeners on quite a journey, exploring the cultural beliefs, the scientific side, and the ethical stuff surrounding this whole topic.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive expert speaker, from ancient blood type origins to modern day cultural beliefs.
Yeah.
And those fascinating hints of a connection between our biology and personality. As we wrap things up here, what are some key takeaways you hope our listeners are walking away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the relationship between blood type and personality is a complex one. We've got these interesting cultural beliefs, anecdotal evidence, some research suggesting there might be links,
Yeah.
but we're far from having a definite scientific answer.
It's not as easy as saying, oh, you're blood type A, so you must be a shy, organized introvert.
Exactly. Human personality is way more nuanced than that. It's shaped by so many factors, and blood type, if it even plays a role, is just one small piece of a much bigger picture.
Like we're trying to understand a complicated recipe, and blood type might add a little flavor, but it doesn't make the whole dish.
I like that. It's about recognizing the complexity of human nature and avoiding those overly simple explanations.
So even though it's fun to explore these connections, we have to be careful about getting too hung up on stereotypes.
For sure.
We don't want to put ourselves or others in boxes just because of something as random as blood type.
Definitely. We should always look at these topics with a critical eye. Question assumptions, look for evidence.
And remember, just because two things happen together doesn't mean one causes the other. A correlation doesn't equal causation.
Exactly. There might be other things going on that we haven't even thought about yet. It's about being curious, but also staying grounded.
So where do we go from here? What's the future of research in this area? Is there more to uncover?
Oh, absolutely. As we learn more about genetics, the immune system, the gut microbiome, I think we'll understand more about how these things interact with blood type and possibly influence personality.
It's like we're on the edge of a whole new world of discovery.
Yeah.
And blood type could be one of the keys to unlocking even deeper understandings of who we are.
Who knows what fascinating connections we might find in the years to come.
I know. That's what I love about science, always pushing the limits of what we know. But for now, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
We have.
Any final thoughts you want to leave them with?
I'd say keep exploring this topic with curiosity and an open mind. Learn about the cultural beliefs, look into the science, maybe even reflect on your own blood type and personality. But most importantly, remember that you're a unique individual shaped by so many things, way too complex to be summed up by just your blood type.
Well said. We're all part of this amazing tapestry of human diversity, each with our own story. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into blood type and personality. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep those questions coming.